Have you ever had this happen? Okay, meet us over at the tavern this weekend.
I'll see you there.
Hey DM, how many days until the weekend? It's like a Tuesday now, so... Tuesday? I don't know. I hate that. My world doesn't have Tuesdays. It's a fantasy world with incredible world building and details and stars and history and factions and unique magic and technology and Tuesdays. So, after that happened to me, I sat down in a huff and I made a calendar. Which may seem like a lot of work, but there's 2 free apps I want to show you in this video that'll make it super easy. Seriously, you'll watch this video and then you'll spend an hour or so fiddling with some settings and then you're done. You will have a calendar to use for your setting for the rest of your life. Welcome to Mystic Arts, where I'm giving you an excuse to go full neurodivergent and eventually emerge from a cave with a thing you made last minute. My name is Daði, I'm a professional writer and director and I've been DMing for 11 years. One of the first things I did when I started world building more is make a calendar. I think it's sort of a rite of passage for world builders. Gods, history, and maps, that's tier 1, baby's first world building. Next up, factions, calendars, nations, baby's second world building. So, let's hit the second world building. No, wait, let's talk about that second tier of world building a little. Because I think there's a lot of good value in a good calendar. My players have little handouts of their calendars in their character folder, where they keep their character sheet, inventory, art, and other handouts. They reference it, they mark their birthdays on it, mark holidays, and most importantly, they mark when quests expire. They might hear that a certain quest needs to be completed by a certain point, or a rival party might do it. Or the problem the quest is to solve might boil over into a whole other problem. Like, if you don't go to the town of Utopia by the 3rd of Monsoon, the Hungry Mutts mercenary company will, and they will kill all the leaders and leave the town in anarchy instead. So now the players want to go there before the mercenaries do. This way, they refer back to the calendar for their quests all the time, and every time they do, they get more and more acquainted with the calendar. Having used it now for years, my players know my campaign settings calendar as well as I do, and honestly some of them know it better than I do, because they look at it more than me. This all serves to create verisimilitude, the feeling of reality in our secondary world. But how do you make a calendar? It seems like a lot of work. Wrong! Let's go to my desk! Hello, we're at my desk. Let's create my calendar in DonJon. If you're not familiar, DonJon is an amazing bit of software or website which has been around for ages, since I started playing at least, and it's got all these sort of different buttons on it that you can go to generate treasure maps or dungeons or inns or whatever, and one of them lets you make a fantasy calendar. I figured we could just recreate my calendar in DonJon. I could show you how quickly you can get it done. When you click on it, you can immediately select Earth Calendar or Eberron Calendar or Galarian Calendar, Greyhawk, or you can set it to random and it'll generate some nonsense, and you can make it as weird as you want. You see, this one here has 8 days in each week, and this month has 39 days, and this one has 40, and it's got like cosmic events on it. The eclipse of the comet appears, meteor shower, all kinds of stuff. You can go here to the top and you can select calendar or months or weeks or moons. If I were to remake Orthon's calendar, I'd go in here, I'd say months 12. I'd put 30 days in each, and it automatically makes sure it's the correct number of days for the size of the year. You can see it's adding up all the days here at the bottom. Math doesn't add up, so I'm going to add one more day to the calendar. It's got 360 days. There you go. You can name the months. Spring's Dawn, First Seed, Monsoon, Midnight Sun, Dry Wind, Harvest Fall, Last Seed, Cold Winds, Snowfall, Evernight, and Winter's Dusk. And there we go. That's a simple calendar. It's the starter one at least. And I kind of believe in making your calendar simple and easy to understand, because you're going to hand this over to your players and they need to be able to sort of grab this thing and immediately understand what they're looking at. So I decided Orthon has 4 seasons, just like Earth. It's got spring, summer, autumn, winter. Each season has 3 months, and sometimes the months have a bit of flavor to them. For instance, one of the spring months is called Monsoon, and it rains a lot. Seems simple enough. The middle of summer is called Dry Wind, because I imagine it's kind of like drought season. Now, Orthon isn't exactly like this. It's actually got 363 days in it, because I decided to add a little bit of fantasy weirdness. Those days are days that exist in no month. But in DonJon, you could put in 15 here, and that'll create a few more months. These days that aren't in any month, they're called Jubilees, and they're these sort of holidays. And I'll talk about them a bit more later in the video, but here you can write in Midwinter, which is their version of Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. And I can just make them be 1-day months. And then if I scroll down, you can see it's already started generating a calendar, but if I scroll down and I go find it, it'll show up as a 1-day month here in the middle of all this. I just have the one moon. That's enough for me. Moon. You put in the moon cycle and how it shifts. I also have there be 7 days of the week, and I call them very simple names. Moon day, third day, midweek day, fifth day, fast day, rest day, and Sunday. It used to be in my world that Sundays were the start of the week. It would be Sunday, Moon day. And that's why third day is called third day. It's the third day of the week. But at somewhere along the way, they shifted the calendar around. So now third day is the second day and fifth day is the fourth day. I generally find that to be a sort of good tip for fantasy world building. You want to take something that everybody understands and just change it a little so that it becomes slightly fantastical, but not so much that you don't understand it. In many campaign settings, you're going to have days of the weeks and months and things that have names that don't look like words to me in a language I don't speak, and it becomes so fantastical that I just never remember any of it. So I decided to just lean into the seasons, lean into seasons that I know exist in, other parts of the world. If you go to parts of Asia or whatever, they might have monsoon season, might be multiple months. So I figured I'll just have 1 month be monsoon, and then the days of the week sound close enough to us that they feel like they are the days of the regular Gregorian calendar. So instead of Monday, it's Moon Day. Instead of Friday, it's Fast Day, because here in Iceland, it's called Föstudagur, which means fasting day. So it was fasting day and got shortened to fast day. But you can go however crazy you want with this. You can create it here in the calendar. You could save it and it just creates this little string. You can copy that and then you put it on a notepad file in your computer or whatever. And then you could load up this website and paste it in, and there you go. There's also an app for Obsidian you can use to make calendars in. Back to the desk. Obsidian, a software that I use a lot when I'm taking notes, and I made a video especially about it here on the channel. Go check that out if you want to know more about Obsidian. And you can see it's sort of in here in my notes. If you've never installed a plugin before, it's very simple. You click on your cogwheel down here. You can go to community plugins and you can search. This one's called Calendarium. You can go and browse community plugins up here. Search for Calendarium, and then it'll show up. You click on it, put it into your Obsidian. It should take no time at all. And I can go down here to Calendarium, and I can go click on it. I can see default calendar, Orathon calendar. I can import from Fantasy Calendar, which is a different website. Looks like this. Apparently, you can also use that to make your days of the week. That's pretty cool. I wasn't familiar with that, so I just sort of built it in here by default. So you go into here, create new calendar, full, quick, and you can edit it. And it basically works the same as I showed you in DonJon. You can put in your dates here. There you go. And they even have 3-letter abbreviations to put down on the calendar here in the corner. You can create eras. So I put in a particular era of my setting. You can create the celestial bodies, like the Orathon moon is here, creatively called the moon. Dates you can put in here, you can put your months. What's nice about this as opposed to DonJon is you can grab a month and you can just sort of move it, because it's got outlining tools. Ain't that beautiful? And look, I put in my jubilees here: Bounty Fair, Midwinter, 1-day months. You can do leap days, custom years, stuff like that. That's really cool. And it shows up here in the corner of my Obsidian screen. And I can just scroll through, and this is the year 1440. I can cycle through the years up here, or I can go to month and cycle through the months. Or I can go to week, cycle through the weeks. Right now I'm using year view a lot because I'm running one game set in 1440, which is the actual play that we just started and is available now on the Patreon. And then I've got another game set in 1450, so occasionally I'll have to go swap through and quickly cycle over to 1450 to see how the days have shifted, because the existence of those 3 Jubilee days shifts the calendar 3 days a year. If I didn't have them, my calendar would be perfectly the same, so every year could begin on a moon day or whatever, which would have been very handy. But I decided against it. It felt too clean to me. A lot of the times when I'm world building, I really just have to make this sort of balance in between having something be fantastical or having something be very normal. And sometimes all it is just taking the normal world, shifting it slightly, and then making sure it's not too clean. It's still got a little bit of weirdness to it so that it feels like it's a real world. It creates this sense of verisimilitude. What's especially good about the Obsidian version of the calendar, and this is a feature I don't really use, but what you can do is you can click here on any given date. You can set it as the today's date, or you can create an event, name it something, describe it, all plugs right in. You can have it link to a note. So if you wanted to, you could create a note for every day and just write down what happens in it if you want to take notes that way in your D&D sessions. But I think it's kind of brilliant because it just sits here in the corner of my screen and I can always sort of look down at it and it just is here. I can plug it anywhere. Obviously, I can take this plugin, I can put it there on the other side of my screen and now it's there. I can move it around however I want. I can make it in the main window. Plonk, there it is. Huge calendar right there. So if you want to make a calendar quick and easy, you can go check out Calendarium for Obsidian, or you can just go to good old-fashioned DonJon and plug it in right there. It really is that simple. If you're one of those folks that have a TV screen built into your D&D table, you might get a huge kick out of today's sponsor, Arkenforge. It's basically like a VTT for you to use at the table while you're running games in person, and I think it's awesome. But it is more than just that. It is a tool for building your own campaigns. It has a full map builder, an audio management tool, robust note system. It's a one-time payment. It installs right on your computer. You don't have to be online or anything to use it. No subscription or anything like that. You can import maps from your favorite creators and plug it in, or you can build them yourself with these huge asset packs for fantasy, sci-fi, Wild West, post-apocalyptic, cyberpunk, and space. It's got built-in stat blocks. It's got 3D dice rolling. And even if you don't have a TV screen built in, you can print out the maps, obviously, and use them at your table. So do yourself a favor and check out Arkenforge today. I'll put a link in the description. Now, back to the show. But how do humans actually mark the passage of time? I tend to think about my life in terms of holidays and other important events. In our video on keeping strict time records, I talked about calendars a bit, especially how holidays are a great tool because they create contrast in storytelling. Maybe you make a holiday interesting by introducing complementary moods. You know, happy news on a celebratory holiday or sad news on a sad holiday, or you can use contrast. If it's a sad holiday, have it correspond with a happy event, or vice versa. In my world, I have two different kinds of holidays. First, I've got jubilees, which are like magical holidays. They're celebrated everywhere at the same time because something is different about my campaign setting on that day and that day exclusively. On Midwinter, the sun never rises. This day is celebrated across the world with paper lanterns that are lit and released to the skies, a substitute for a sun that never rose. On Firehop, all fires burn in a resplendent array of colors ranging from blue to pink to green to red. This day is celebrated with bonfires, dancing, and feasting. On Bounty Fair, berries and nuts grow from moss, grass, and trees, and fall onto the ground. This bounty of food has inspired people to celebrate by feasting before harvest begins. Nobody knows why these days are like this, but the people believe the other world of fairy is somehow involved. I once ran a campaign in Midwinter, in the ancient history of my world, when the sun shone all day. It rose on the 30th of Evernight and didn't set until the evening of the 1st of winter's dusk. But then the sun, which was like an actual archfey, was imprisoned by another archfey in a coup to instill endless winter. A group of fairy heroes from every season teamed up with a 10-year-old boy to rescue the sun. And when they got there, the sun decided to forsake Midwinter from then on to avoid this ever happening again. She said, "For Midwinter's sake, I must Midwinter forsake." And from that point on, she never rose on Midwinter again. Those are the jubilees, but I also made a bunch of normal holidays. I just sat down and I invented a bunch of them. Many celebrating historical events from previous adventures we played through. The great thing about playing in the same campaign setting for years is that it grows over time. When I start a new adventure, I just invent new holidays and add them into the calendar. For example, when the last war ended in my second Kingmaker campaign, it was a cataclysmic day where the world itself nearly tore itself asunder. That day, the 18th of Snowfall, is now celebrated, always, as Victory Day, celebrating the end of the war and remembering those who died during the war. A holiday that contains contrast within, happy that it's over, sad that it happened at all. I think it helps to lend a lot of meaning to our games and to our calendars. They're great like that. Okay, yes, Tolkien didn't use a fantasy calendar. In Lord of the Rings, he used a different conceit. He said that he was translating Middle-earth concepts into English for us. Aragorn and Frodo, they weren't speaking English, they spoke in some fantasy language we never heard, because Tolkien did us the favor of translating these real historical events into English for the rest of us. What a lad. And you can do that. Plenty of DMs do. Even some people whose full legal name contains World Builder. That's right, Bobby. I'm calling you out, you hack. It's not an uncommon argument though. There's nothing wrong with it. You can just say Monday or Tuesday and move on, because every bit of world building you do is a different universe of facts for your players that they have to memorize. Different from Earth, the most popular campaign setting. So it's like cognitive load, which means you may want to keep it to a minimum, especially if it's a quick game, a short adventure, or some player's first time. In fact, there are plenty of campaigns where I don't use my calendar openly. Like, I know what day it is, I keep it on my side of the screen, but the calendar doesn't matter for the campaign we're playing, so I don't mention it to the players. Instead, I try and change the language to say stuff like, "This happened 2 days ago," as opposed to, "It happened last moon day." It's fantasy because there's 2 O's. In this case, you can have your cake and eat it too. But another thing to keep in mind is that you don't need a calendar. You can run D&D without one. Listen, very carefully please. If the reason you haven't started your campaign yet is because I just said that you should make a fantasy calendar, I need you to scrub that idea from your brain. I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to people who are already running games and they're having fun and they're looking for something fun to do next weekend when they want to world build some more. But if you're about to run your first game, or even your third or fourth, don't bother. Just make an adventure or a 5-room dungeon. I made a whole video about why you don't need to build worlds. You can just go play the game. So that's the point. You don't need a calendar. But if you want to make a calendar for your game, it isn't hard. It'll take you an afternoon of noodling around, and then maybe you sleep on it, adjust it in the morning, and you'll have it ready for your next game. If you end up moving your calendar from DonJon to something like Word or Excel, you can print it out. And I'm sure you can find apps for this stuff online somewhere that I'm not aware of. And then you have a little handout for your next game. Your players show up, and you give them a quest saying, "This needs to happen before the summer." And then you hand them a calendar, and they'll flip through it for a bit, and your world will become that much more real for everyone around the table forever. And that's where we'll pick it up next time. This channel is run by me and my girlfriend. What? If you want to support us, go check out Arkenforge by clicking the link in the description so they know who sent you. If you're feeling especially generous, you might like the video, comment, share, or subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we release new videos. Until next time, keep studying the mystic arts.